Lifestyle inflation to me is one of the biggest destroyers of wealth, because what happens is if you keep your cost going up as your income's coming in, eventually you're going to hit a topsy-turvy place where you're like, damn, how the hell am I going to live at that current rate, which you'll exceed it? This happens to athletes all the time. You don't believe me? Look it up. That's why they go bankrupt after 3 years, because lifestyle inflation creeped up on them. They expected to make that money forever. Well, build in a hedge strategy and you'll be good to go.
Welcome to the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast, the ultimate destination for accredited investors and entrepreneurs seeking alternative wealth-building strategies. Discover how to fast-track your journey to wealth and time freedom by thinking outside the box. If you're ready to join the ranks of the Contrarian Capitalists and learn the most effective ways to reach your financial goals faster, you're in the right place. Let's get started with today's episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast.
Thank you once again for listening to another episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast. I am your host and your favorite silverback, Sylvania Harrod. And on today's episode, I want to give you guys a little tea. One of the things that I have learned over time is that the number one destroyer of wealth happens to be lifestyle inflation. I'm here to tell you, it happens all of the time. So I was talking to one of my mentees today, and we were going through, and he talked about like his dream of certain like items he wanted to achieve once he made X amount of dollars. And I remember that so well, like being in that space of exactly where he is. I'm about 20 years his senior. So like I've had a few different experiences when it comes to buying all type of flashy stuff to go through. And what you realize is that I understand the desire of having the goal, of having the flashy car, the flashy house, wearing the jewelry, getting all the drip. I get it. But I'm here to tell you, most of that crap is empty. It's empty. Because after 3 to 6 months, you realize it's just a car. You realize it's just another watch that you wear. The house that you dreamed of, that you live in, just becomes a house. And you have all kinds of issues that happen with owning those type of things. It's the space where you go, you're like, oh, cool. Live in a house. So we bought our dream house a little over 3 years ago. It's weird to think that it's been 3 years. But I remember like getting the house and the feeling and the experience the first 3 months. And then roughly, I want to say it was probably like around month 6 of ownership, one of the AC units went out. It was in the dead of winter, and we had to replace it. And you replace it, and you get replacement bill. And you go, oh, shit. Like, this was the price of, like, one unit I had before. Like, for all the units that I had before, now I got to replace it with just one of the units. There's 3 different air handlers. And you got to replace those things. And you go through, and you realize, like, oh, after a certain period of time, that house just becomes your house. So like that desire element never actually changes. I'm going to tell you, like it'll just switch. You go from that house to the next house, to the next house, to the next house. That's because our mind is trained to think, right? We're craving something outside of us in order to give us an experience we want to have. Now, what I will tell you is that there are certain elements when it comes to like, in the house, it fits the family right, because I do things based upon intentionally of like, I need to ensure that that the house fits certain requirements for spacing, because I have 4 children. So those children need to have space when they come to my house and go through things. And I actually have data to prove how frequently they visit and do things. I mean, maybe a different question in 15 years. I can't answer that one. I'm not a predictor of the future. What I will tell you is that my process will remain the same. When we look at things like, oh, do I want that? Do I have desires of like, oh my goodness, like you see things on Pinterest and updates and things you can do? Yeah. But what I've learned is I don't succumb to the latest trend or the catchy thing that goes through. I build things on the basis of ensuring that the family is supported by it. Now, I am a car fanatic. I love cars. But I will tell you, unless you have a business where you can depreciate the value of those cars, it is a dumb investment. It is. It's because it comes down to the law of assets or liabilities. If you buy a very rare car, that can be considered an asset because it will appreciate over time. There's tons of vehicles that do that. But for a majority of them, buying one brand new, unless you can write it off, is stupid. But sometimes in life, you need to do some stupid things, and that's completely fine. That's up to you. You get to decide the rules of the game. Not somebody else can tell you what to do. So in those spaces, lifestyle inflation happens to be the thing that steals more things than you can possibly imagine. I'll give you an example. If you had this habit of like buying the next trendy thing, guess what happens? Every month, there's something for you to buy. And then you buy and you buy and you buy. And most people don't realize these things until it's time to move. And then you go, oh, damn, I didn't even remember I had this thing that was sitting there. And you're at the place where you go like, oh, it's just, damn, how much cash is sitting collecting dust right now spread through your house? Probably a ton. Clothes that you no longer wear, toys or gadgets you may have bought. And then here's the thing, it kind of gets worse because you could be at a place where, let's say, for example, you go ahead and you're like, I only want to stay at the finest hotels. I'm going to tell you that's a slippery slope. Yes. Is the beds more comfy at different? Is it great to have convenience of like items located? But does it change me who I am as a person? No. And that's because I do not have to succumb to status-based items to determine my own personal worth. Most of the time, the desires that you have are based upon the belief you think that thing will give you. If you're at the place in life where the things you enjoy because you actually know you enjoy them, kudos to you. Do what you got to do. I see nothing wrong with going ahead and taking first class flights, because like they all have their benefit, right? For me, the wider seat damn sure helps. I'm way more rested when I attend places. But if I take my kids and we're going on typically short flights, do I have to do it? No. Will I give a damn if somebody sees me sitting in coach? No. I don't give a damn they see me sitting in first class. I don't care because I no longer subscribe to status-based games. I'll give you an example. Most of life is a status-based system. And I will tell you, it's a never-ending game. It's zero sum. Never ends. It's a place where like you'll always find somebody with higher status. And there'll always be somebody with higher status. And you realize that status feeling is fleeing. Don't stay because it normalizes. That's how our brain is wired. It's going to normalize at a certain point. Status-based, I don't play zero-sum games. They're a waste of time. Keeping up with the Joneses, buying the latest trends, somebody can see you in a particular thing and you feel a particular way, which means you're caring a lot about what other people think about you, conscious or unconscious. We all do in some element. But let's be real. Does anybody care? I used to always think that like working out when you're in your early 20s, you're like, I'm going to attract all the women because I'm big and strong. You know who gives you the most compliments? Dudes. That's what happens. That's what happens. You just get other dudes that go ahead and tell you stuff. And you're like, yeah. Like, so you're hanging with your buddies and doing stuff. Like, it's just dude-based stuff. You get to go ahead and fancy car. Nobody really cares other than somebody who's probably a dude. I'm like, oh my God, I love that thing to go through. Yeah. For me, my cars are just an expression of who I am. There's a certain level of practicality and there's a certain level of like, oh, I like the sound of the way things move. I like the comfort of sitting in the seats because I spend a lot of time there. But lifestyle inflation will destroy you if you're not careful, because you think you have to keep accomplishing certain things. And what I mean by lifestyle inflation is like, hey, I went from making 100 grand to making 200 grand. So guess what I'm going to start doing? I'm just going to start making 200 grand based expenses just because I have it, because you're already used to spending a certain percentage of money that goes out. If you can train yourself to have delayed gratification in a world that wants instant gratification, you'll recognize that you have a completely different superpower. Because if you're ever going to truly play the wealth game, most of that stuff is delayed. Let's be real. Most net worths that are listed in all the major publication talks about doesn't talk about how much they have in their bank or how much liquid cash they have. it talks about what their shares of what they own is worth if they got everything that they asked for those shares. Because here's the reality. Let's say Bezos goes and decides he's worth a couple $100 billion. He would have to sell off all of his shares at Amazon in order to recoup, I don't know, let's say 100 billion, right? 150 billion. That means that you have to have people to buy those orders for the value of what shares he currently has. There's to be enough people to want that type of demand, to buy those type of things. And anybody who has the ability to buy that volume of things, damn sure ain't paying regular pricing. They'd have to pay at a discount. So in reality, his fairy dust of money is not a reality because it's not earned income. So he would need to sell that 200 might only turn out to be 35, 40 if he sold it all at once. Because you know what it will do to the share price? Crash and burn. So, it's fairy dust, it's fantasy. And so once you recognize the game of life, you realize most things that you believe to be true are just fantasy. They're not a reality. Why entertainment industry exists, it's just for the pure entertainment. It's not real. It's not how real life works. So training yourself to have a certain level of discipline towards delayed gratification is actually freedom. Because you know me, I'm a freedom-based guy. Things that afford me the opportunity to experience different levels of freedom, I'm all for it. But the greatest freedom I ever gave was not to have to care about external social pressures. I care about reality and how things show up. So even if you are going to increase lifestyle, keep the same percentage. You know, if you're used to, you keep the percentage, but as the wealth grows, you don't have to play the percentage game. This will mean more what I mean of. So let's say I make 100 grand. I go from 100 grand to making 500 grand. Well, if I was used to expending $80,000, and we're going to say 500 net just for simple math purposes. If I was used to expending 80% of the income, I don't want to spend $400,000 a year just because I keep the same percentage. What I really want to do is be at a place where I say, okay, if I'm going to increase that percentage of that additional 400 grand that I'm making, I'm going to take 25% of that additional increase versus sticking to the whole 80%. Because now you're at a place where now you're spending 200 grand when you have 500 grand net coming in. You're at a space of you're really not that high. You know what I mean? You're only 40%. You've actually cut your rate in half. That affords you the opportunity to go do different things and have different experiences. Because we all know we can't take it home with us. So you got to be at the place where you can be patient, you can be understanding, and you're really sure of why you're deploying cash in certain situations, at least 80% of the time. Because guess what? We're going to human, y'all. We're going to want to do dumb shit and splurge and do different things at different moments. And that's okay. Because you need to do that experience. It's kind of like, that's why cheat meals exist if you're on a certain food regimen, because you just got a human. We're not robots. It's not possible to go through. If the person is a robot, I'm going to tell you, they're just on the spectrum and hopefully they understand it so they can get accepted. But that's really it. So to land the plane, lifestyle inflation to me is one of the biggest destroyers of wealth, because what happens is if you keep your cost going up as your income's coming in, eventually you're going to hit a topsy-turvy place where you're like, damn, how the hell am I going to live at that current rate, which you'll exceed it? This happens to athletes all the time. You don't believe me? Look it up. That's why they go bankrupt after 3 years, because lifestyle inflation creeped up on them. They expected to make that money forever. Well, build in a hedge strategy and you'll be good to go. So as always, stay hungry, stay humble, and stay grateful. And until the next episode, cheers, everybody.